Stuck in the highest room of the tallest tower, tucked away inside a dream, meet the true form of Queen Rennala of the full moon. I'm Horizon Shield. Let's make this easy. As always, I'm doing this fight without summons or spirits, and without blocks or parries. If you use them, don't worry, that means you have more ways to play the game than I do. We all see the same credits at the end of the game, so don't worry about it. I'm doing this fight at level 31 with 2+4 Lordsworn longswords because they're fun. No other reason. I'm using a full set of Godric's Knight gear for armor, and for talismans, the Winged Sword Insignia and Assassin's Crimson Dagger. Fight the way you want. I'm just a guy on the internet trying to help out a few people. So what can Rennala actually do? This fight is split into two sections. Finish off her health bar once entirely, and you'll enter the second phase. But in the first phase, Rennala's Scholar minions are the only ones throwing actual attacks. Rennala has one slow attack, and then a defensive attack as she regrows her shield. That means most of the attacks are going to come from the juvenile scholars littering the arena. The gimmick of this fight is you have to hit the scholar that is singing 3 times to get Rennala to drop her shield and fall to the ground. The scholar that is singing can be heard as well as seen with a yellow aura around her. The only scholar that you need to worry about is the singing one. None of the others matter, but they do throw a couple of attacks that you may need to dodge. The first attack is the Flying Book attack. The scholar that is singing is the only one that will do this attack, and it is the only attack she can do while singing. The books are thrown at regular intervals and leave an opening after the second or third book is thrown. To dodge, just walk left or right if you're looking at them. Otherwise, rolling through the attack is just fine. The next attack from any of the scholars is the Bite attack. If they are crawling close enough to you, they can simply try to lunge at you and bite your ankles. It's pretty simple. You could just walk away from them. Try not to stand too close and you won't even see the attack. The next attack, with a little bit of range, is the Fire Breath attack. Any of the scholars that are holding the candles can shoot a stream of fire at the player if they are in range. It's surprisingly slow compared to most of fire attacks, so you can just kind of walk away from it or roll through it to dodge. The last attack that they can throw at you is the Flying Globe attack. They start to take control of one of the globes around the room if you happen to get too close to it, and it can start to move towards you. The globe, after a short period of time, can explode for damage. It will also explode if you happen to get too close to it. To dodge this attack, just walk away. These globes are incredibly slow and are a non-issue for most of the fight. Now for Rennala's attacks. The first one is the Light Explosion. This attack comes after you have downed her. She stays on the ground for roughly 10 seconds and you can damage her then. Afterwards, her hands will start to glow before a circular explosion is done, centered around her body. You can roll through the attack to dodge it if you can't get far enough away before you see it. Otherwise, just walk away. The only offensive attack that she does is the Gravestone attack. After her shield has been broken once, she levitates roughly 5 scholars and slowly turns them into gravestones. She then throws them directly at the player. The attack can destroy some of the bookshelves if they are between Rennala and the player. You can dodge by either hiding behind a bookshelf or a pillar. But you may not see this attack depending on how fast you hit the scholars and end the second phase. This attack takes a long time to happen, so you have plenty of time to go hide behind one of the pillars or make her fall to the ground by hitting the scholars. The last attack of this phase isn't even an attack, it's actually just an environmental hazard. There are chandeliers hanging around the room. They can be dropped on the player if they run to the right or left of the starting place of the room, or even backwards to the start of the room. The scholars can also trigger these chandeliers to drop. There is an animation of the ground burning in the diameter of the chandelier before it drops to give you a heads up that it's going to happen. You have plenty of time to dodge, so just walk away from the drop area. There's literally no reason to stick around. However, if you are underneath it, you can dodge roll through it. After Rennala's health bar has been depleted the first time, the second phase will begin, with Rennala at full health. In this phase, Rennala is actually dangerous and uses magic for most of her attacks. But most of her attacks are actual spells that the player can use, so they may look familiar to you. To kick off the second phase, she will always use the Comet Azure spell. This spell is telegraphed by the green color and forming of a sphere in her hands. The attack winds up for a few seconds before firing. The attack itself hits several times. If you are far enough away, you can see the individual attacks being spread out as you run. It is possible just to run parallel to her if you're far enough away, but I still recommend dodging to the side to avoid incidents. The second attack is her signature move of Rennala's Full Moon. She curls into the air into a moon, literally. She then sends the moon towards the player before it explodes. The attack is very slow, so you can just run in the opposite direction. The distance it travels is dependent on how far your player is from the attack to start with. The closer you are, the sooner it blows up. So to dodge, just run away from it. It is possible to damage Rennala as she comes out of the full moon. Just be careful of a retaliation attack, as it becomes hard to see around the solid moon. Next we have the Glintstone Comet Shard, the other green attack that she uses. This one is telegraphed by a green glow and her levitating off of the ground slightly. This is very easy to dodge, as you can just run towards her and it goes right over your head. If you're too far from her though, you can also roll left or right to dodge. Next we have the Star Shower. This is probably her most common attack in this phase. She can use it either standing still or as she dodges backwards. This has a very fast cast speed and it makes it difficult to spot before she does it. Thankfully, they wait several seconds before they track onto you. To dodge, I recommend trying to run them into the ground or by rolling through them if they are chasing you in a line. Specifically, if she retreats straight backwards, you can actually run essentially straight towards her. Be warned, she may throw another attack at your face as you're doing this. This will run all the Star Showers into the ground. A very similar pattern can be used if she's standing still and does the attack. The next attack is multiple Glintstone Pebbles. She creates them in a line in front of herself, aimed towards the player. She then releases them after several seconds. To dodge, the easiest way is to run parallel to her until they pass by. Fairly simple on their own, but they can be more difficult to dodge with multiple spells flying around. You can also dodge roll through them if you have to, but you may accidentally get hit by one. Be warned. If you happen to get too close, Rennala can do a Shattering Crystal attack. This attack fires a cone of crystals directly in front of her. The telegraph is the crystal sphere she holds in front of her. To dodge, the easiest way to do it is to run to one of her sides or far enough backwards that you're out of reach of the attack. It is fairly slow on the windup, so I recommend trying to run to the side to be able to damage her as she finishes the attack. If she doesn't feel like slinging any spells, she can also throw her staff around. The first staff attack is a simple staff twirl. Rennala twirls her staff in front of her while walking backwards. This attack can't hurt you unless you walk into it yourself. The good news is that you can walk towards her and stay just out of range of the attack and wait for it to stop before getting in a good hit. The second staff attack is a staff toss. She tosses her staff in front of her while it twirls. This attack tracks the player's location for a couple seconds before returning to her. She does damage as it leaves and as it returns. It can hit you multiple times as it's twirling in place as well. To dodge, if you're in range, roll forward or to her side. Rolling backward gets you hit almost every time. If you manage to attack her while this attack is still out, it interrupts the attack entirely. The staff does not come backwards, it just disappears and reappears into her hand. The final staff attack is a Spiral Toss. She tosses the staff out, but instead of tracking the player's position, it does a full circle around her in a spiral. This attack can be deceptive in the hitbox as it returns to her, as it's a little bit wider than the staff itself, as with all of the twirls, but it's much more obvious in this one. She's vulnerable while she's tossing the staff. Similar to the other toss attack, if you hit her while it's out, it makes the attack disappear and her staff reappears in her hand and she'll start her next attack immediately. The last attack she has is her summons. She only uses this when she's under 60% health. She can summon 4 different monsters: wolves, a bloodhound knight, a troll, and a dragon. For the last 3, if you can manage to kill them before they despawn, they will not be resummoned. But if you injure them, they will respawn with full health. Looking at them individually, the wolves are fairly easy. Each of these wolves will last for 2 attacks or so before disappearing. So just run away and then run kind of back in a circle towards Rennala, and most of the wolves will have wasted their attacks and unsummon themselves. If they are still there, just run a little further and they should take care of themselves without a problem. The Bloodhound Knight is the worst of them all. His attacks are tracking lunges and are nearly guaranteed hits if you aren't paying attention. I recommend focusing on him and just running in a giant circle away from him. If you're looking at him and you hear Rennala start to cast the next spell, you know he's about to unsummon himself, so you can refocus on Rennala. When Rennala summons the troll, it will always appear by smashing in Rennala's place as she teleports to the side. He will then chase after the player for a few attacks. These can be pretty simply avoided by running away. He only lasts for a couple of attacks and then unsummons himself. When she summons the dragon, it will be spawned behind her, and it will start with a flame sweep attack. He has a few stomping attacks, and then will launch himself into the air and try to stomp on you before despawning. Surprisingly, the dragon leaves Rennala the most open to attacks, if you can stick close to her. You can get in a few attacks as he is summoned with his flame sweep attack, and then again before his next attack as well. But beware, if you start going after Rennala, the dragon may stick around longer since you're closer to him. If you're wanting to guarantee a despawn, run as far away as you possibly can, and he should take care of himself. If the worst happens and we get hit, when can we heal? Well, in the first phase, just make sure you aren't standing in line of sight of the singing scholar to avoid the book throws, and nearly anywhere in the arena will be fine. In the second phase, most of Rennala's attacks are fairly slow. That's good news for us and our healing times. The downside is that a lot of our attacks track you, so you can't just heal directly in front of her face anytime you want. Get a little bit of a distance so that staff attacks won't be an issue, and then heal. The healing times are still very generous. Use your best judgment for if you can get heal off before a spell gets to you, and you should just be fine. Alright, so how do we bring it together to finish this fight? Well, all in all, the first phase is pretty simple. You're going to see all the scholars lined out, you just need to hit them once. You can do it with your fist or a weapon. They only spawn in about 7 different spots. There's 4 in the center area, 1 to the right behind this bookshelf, 1 to the back left, and then 1 to the far left hidden behind the bookshelf. So, after you get the first 3 hits in, Rennala will fall. You're going to have to use your own judgment to see how much damage you can do to Rennala in a single fall. For me personally, I was able to get her about halfway. This means, after 2 cycles, I'll be able to take her to her second phase. As she comes into the second phase, you don't really need to be worried about the gravestone attack. It's slow enough that you should be able to find all 3 scholars in a fairly time-efficient manner. As long as you don't get caught off guard by any falling chandeliers, you'll be perfectly fine. Note that my management here also requires me to stick around almost close enough to the light explosion that it's kind of worrying. But that's okay. I've played the fight enough that I knew exactly how much time that I had to finish off the fight. Try not to get hit by the scholars as the phase transition happens. They start to become active about 2 or 3 seconds before Rennala actually picks herself up. Start of the second phase, she will always start off with the common Azure. So, just run behind her, get a couple swings in. Here you're going to be focusing on the star shower and getting it to run into the ground. If you're close enough to her, she'll do a lot of her staff twirl attacks. You have to be looking for the pullback of her arm before you actually do much of anything. And starting off, when she starts to do her summons, if you manage to hit her while she is still summoning, this will start to trigger her to summon more than one thing at once. So be very careful when you choose to hit her. When she summons the wolves, 2 of them will despawn after 2 attacks, 1 will wait till the 3rd, 1 will wait till the 4th. But I was kind of getting tired of waiting for her to attack, and so I went after her. I was ready for the new summons, and I kind of wanted to show them in this fight. Unfortunately, I don't get the chance. But I also got very unlucky here, because she summoned the Bloodhound Knight while I was right next to her. This could be kind of dangerous. The Bloodhound Knight can be very dangerous because it lunges and tracks you, as I've said before. But I was really wanting to finish up the fight, so I was chasing after her and not even going to worry about him. But he does unsummon himself. And she goes back to doing the first half of the moveset. She doesn't end up doing any summons until the very end. I was kind of trying to get her to summon multiple enemies at the same time because I wanted it to happen. But unfortunately she just doesn't do it. As she gets lower here, she ends up summoning a dragon. I see an opportunity to finish the fight, and I just take it. I double check to make sure the dragon does unsummon himself as he jumps into the air, and finishes out the fight. Well, if this video was helpful, feel free to like and subscribe to see me break down the rest of the bosses in Elden Ring. Until next time, happy hunting.